Family said they'd be better off without me, until the day I discovered her biological father's true plan. At 42, I thought I understood betrayal. What I discovered about family loyalty that winter morning would reshape everything I believed about love, manipulation, and the lengths we go to protect those we cherish. Why don't you just disappear? My stepdaughter Emma snapped during what started as a simple disagreement about curfew. Her mother Catherine joined in with words that still echo in my mind. Maybe we'd all be better off without you. I didn't argue. I didn't plead my case. I simply packed my bags. Sometimes the most profound moments in life arrive wrapped in ordinary Sunday mornings. This one began with coffee growing cold in my favorite mug, the one Emma had given me for Father's Day 2 years ago, painted with her own hands. The house felt different that morning, unusually quiet, but it wasn't the silence that caught my attention. My eyes swept across our living room, trying to identify what felt wrong. Then it hit me like a physical blow. Every family photograph had been carefully altered. I stepped closer to the large frame above our stone fireplace, the one from our camping trip to Glacier National Park last August. The photo was there, but I wasn't. Every image of me had been meticulously removed, leaving awkward gaps in family moments spanning 4 years of my life with them. I stood there, coffee growing bitter on my tongue, when I heard Emma's bedroom door close softly upstairs. At 17, my stepdaughter had grown from the shy 13-year-old who used to ask me to check for monsters under her bed into someone I barely recognized. Her footsteps paused at the top of the stairs. She'd obviously noticed I was awake. After a moment's hesitation, she continued down, phone clutched in her hand, deliberately avoiding eye contact as she headed for the kitchen. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice as neutral as morning coffee. The silence that followed was heavy with intention, thick with unspoken accusations. 4 years. That's how long I'd been building a life with Emma and Catherine. 4 years of carefully constructed trust, of calculus homework sessions and driving lessons, of trying to be present without overstepping the invisible boundaries that come with loving someone else's child. Now, at 17, Emma had started pulling away with the precision of someone who'd been coached in withdrawal. The shift had been gradual at first, typical teenage independence, I'd told myself. But this felt different, calculated. It started 3 weeks ago when I'd offered to help with her chemistry project. She'd been struggling with molecular structures, and I thought my engineering background might help. Her response was like touching a live wire. "Stop pretending you care about my grades," she'd said, her voice carrying a new edge I'd never heard before. "You're not my real father." I'd heard variations of that phrase over the years. It comes with the territory of being a step-parent. But something in her tone was different this time. Sharp, deliberate, practiced. Catherine was in the kitchen during that exchange and must have heard every word. Her silence felt like choosing sides, and for the first time in our relationship, I found myself on the losing end. The tension had been building systematically over the following weeks. Small things that felt orchestrated. Dishes left strategically in the sink with pointed looks in my direction. Doors closing with just enough force to send a message. Conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered rooms. Catherine grew distant too, deflecting whenever I tried to address what was happening. "She's just being a teenager, Michael," Catherine would say, using that tone that shut down further discussion. "Don't make everything about you." But I'd helped raise a teenager. I knew the difference between normal rebellion and something else entirely. Last night, everything exploded with the precision of a controlled demolition. Emma was texting during dinner, against our long-standing family rule about phones at the table. When I gently reminded her, she threw her phone down with theatrical force. "God, why are you always controlling everything I do?" she demanded. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Emma," I started carefully. "I'm just trying to." "To what?" "Play dad." She stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor with a sound that made me wince. "I already have one. Why don't you just disappear? Nobody asked you to try so hard. It's honestly pathetic." I looked at Catherine, expecting. I don't know what I expected. Support. Mediation. Some acknowledgement that Emma had crossed a line. Instead, Catherine set down her fork with the quiet deliberation of someone who'd been waiting for this moment. "Maybe," she said quietly, not meeting my eyes, "we'd all be better off if you did." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire, acrid and suffocating. 4 years of memories flashed through my mind in the space of a heartbeat. The day Emma first laughed at one of my deliberately terrible dad jokes. The night she'd called me, not Catherine, when her first boyfriend broke up with her via text message. The proud smile Catherine had given me when Emma specifically asked me, not her mother, to help her pick out her homecoming dress. I stood up slowly, my dinner half eaten, my world quietly reorganizing itself around this new reality. Okay, I said simply. Okay, what? Emma challenged, but there was something flickering in her eyes now, uncertainty, maybe even regret. If that's how you both feel, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Then okay. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, the one Catherine and I had painted together when I'd moved in, the one where we'd talked about our future and Emma's college plans, and pulled out my old travel bag. I could hear them whispering downstairs, urgent and hushed, but nobody came up as I packed enough clothes for a week. When I came back down, Emma had disappeared, probably to her room. Catherine stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed in a posture I'd learned meant the conversation was over before it started. So you're just leaving? She asked. That's your solution? You said you'd be better off, I replied, checking for my keys and wallet with the mechanical precision of someone going through familiar motions. I'm respecting that. That's not, I didn't mean. She stopped, pride or anger or something else entirely holding back whatever she was going to say. I picked up my bag, surprised by how light it felt. 4 years of a life reduced to 7 days' worth of clothes and basic necessities. I'll be at David's place, I said, pausing at the door that had welcomed me home every day for nearly half a decade. I'll figure out something more permanent soon. I turned back for just a moment. You know, Catherine, when Emma said those things before, it hurt. But hearing you agree, that broke something I didn't even know could break. The drive to David's apartment felt like traveling through a landscape that had fundamentally changed while I wasn't paying attention. David took one look at my face and set up his guest room without asking a single question. That's the kind of friend who proves family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up when everything falls apart. I turned off my phone and took a sleeping pill from the emergency stash in my travel kit, the one Catherine had insisted I keep for work trips. Sleep came mercifully quickly. This morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains and the distant sound of traffic instead of Emma's alarm clock going off down the hall. When I finally turned on my phone, it exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls, 11 from Catherine, 4 from Emma, 2 from my sister Hannah, 32 text messages, 6 voicemails. I haven't listened to them yet. I'm sitting here in David's guest room, watching the Monday morning rush hour below, thinking about those empty spaces in our family photos. Maybe they were always there, and I'd just been too hopeful to see them clearly. My phone buzzes again. It's Emma. After everything that happened, I find myself staring at her name on the screen, wondering what could possibly be so urgent now. But I'm not ready. Not yet. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't walking away. It's knowing whether you should ever walk back. First, let me address the overwhelming response to my previous post. I never expected so many people to share their own stories of blended family struggles. To answer the most common questions, yes, I've read all the messages. No, I haven't responded to any of them yet. And yes, I'm still staying at David's place. This morning started like the others, me pretending to focus on my consulting work while actually staring at my phone, wondering if I should break the silence that had settled over my life like dust on abandoned furniture. Then David dropped a bombshell over breakfast. Nathan's back in town, he said, sliding his phone across the table with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. There on Facebook was a photo of Emma's biological father, tagged at Romano's, the upscale Italian restaurant downtown, dated just 3 weeks ago. The same Nathan who'd been absent for Emma's last 5 birthdays. The same Nathan who'd promised to take her to see Hamilton in Chicago and never showed up. The same Nathan who owed $8,700 in back child support. Suddenly, the timing of everything clicked into place with mathematical precision. I scrolled through my text messages again, seeing Catherine's communications with new eyes. They'd evolved from angry, real mature, Michael, running away instead of talking, to concerned, please just let us know you're safe, to something more complex. Her latest message, sent at 2:17 a.m., read, "There's something you need to know. About Emma. Please call." Hannah showed up around noon, armed with coffee from our favorite cafe, and wearing that expression she gets when she's about to interfere in my life. The same look she'd had when she told me I was making a mistake moving in with Catherine and Emma so quickly. "You look terrible," she announced, settling into David's couch with the confidence of someone who'd been given permission to speak uncomfortable truths. "Thanks. Always good to see you too." She didn't smile. "I ran into Emma at the mall yesterday. That got my attention." "How did she seem?" "Like she was meeting someone important." Hannah paused, watching my reaction carefully. "She was sitting with Nathan at the food court." I didn't let them see me, but I watched for a while. My stomach dropped. "How did she look?" "Hopeful," Hannah said quietly. "You know that expression she gets when she's trying not to get too excited about something. Like when she got accepted into that summer art program last year, and she was afraid to believe it was real." I knew exactly what she meant. It was the same look Emma had worn when I'd first started dating her mother. Cautious optimism mixed with the fear that good things don't last. "Did you know Nathan's been messaging her for months?" Hannah continued, "promising to make things right this time." Those were his exact words. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. I pulled out my phone and did something I rarely did. Checked Emma's social media. Her latest Instagram post was a photo of her and Nathan at what looked like an expensive restaurant. Captioned, "Finally getting to know my real family." The comments were filled with heart emojis from her friends, none of whom knew the history. None of whom remembered the last time Nathan had swept back into Emma's life with grand promises and left her devastated. David, who'd been quietly listening while working on his laptop, finally spoke up. "Remember what happened when Emma was 14? I remembered with perfect, painful clarity. Nathan had returned then too, full of apologies and plans. He'd lasted exactly 10 days before disappearing again, leaving Emma to wonder what she'd done wrong. Catherine and I had spent months rebuilding her sense of self-worth, convincing her that his failures weren't her fault." As if summoned by our conversation, my phone lit up with a text from Catherine. "Nathan's asking Emma to move in with him. She's actually considering it. Please, Michael. I know you're angry with me, but she needs you." I stared at the message for a long time, typing and deleting several responses. What could I say? "Sorry you told me to disappear, but now you need me to reappear." The situation would have been laughable if it weren't so heartbreaking. Then came another notification, Emma's new Instagram story. A picture of college brochure spread across her bed with the caption, "Big changes coming. Sometimes you have to choose your real path." Those were Nathan's exact words from 4 years ago, right before he'd moved to Denver for his real opportunity and stopped returning Emma's calls. Hannah must have seen something shift in my expression. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," I said slowly, "about the day I married Catherine. Do you remember Emma's speech at the reception? She talked about how sometimes family finds you when you're not looking for it. And now she's posting about her real family and her real path, while Nathan plays Father of the Year." I stopped as my phone started ringing. "Michael Matthews." The voice was professional, female. "This is Mrs. Rodriguez from Lincoln High School. I'm Emma's guidance counselor. I know this is unusual, but I need to speak with you about some concerning changes in Emma's academic plans and recent behavior. Would you be able to come in tomorrow morning?" I agreed to meet at 8:30 a.m., my mind already racing. Emma had been maintaining a 3.8 GPA since sophomore year, determined to get into Northwestern University's journalism program. What could have changed? After I hung up, Hannah and David were both watching me expectantly. "So," Hannah prompted, "so I think it's time I stopped being silent." I picked up my phone and finally opened Emma's voicemail from yesterday. Her voice was small, uncertain, completely unlike her usual confidence. "Michael, I know you probably hate me now, and I totally get it. I need to tell you something. About why I said those things. About Nathan. Please call me back. I think I messed up really bad." There was something in her voice that reminded me of the 14-year-old girl who used to check the mailbox every day, hoping for a letter from her father that never came. "I'm meeting with the guidance counselor tomorrow at 8:30, I said, standing up and reaching for my jacket. "After that, I think it's time for some honest conversations." "Where are you going now?" David asked. "To have a conversation that's 4 years overdue. Because here's the thing about disappearing. Sometimes it gives you the clarity to see what was really happening all along." And what I was seeing now was a 17-year-old girl being manipulated by a master manipulator. while the adults who were supposed to protect her were too caught up in their own hurt to recognize the pattern. The school's number was still on my phone screen. Next to it was a text notification from Nathan to our family group chat, which I was, apparently, still part of. Great news, everyone. Big announcement at dinner tomorrow night. Emma's future is about to change in amazing ways. I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what that announcement would be. And this time, I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. I've spent the last 2 hours trying to figure out how to write this update. The meeting with Mrs. Rodriguez revealed things I never expected, and the events that followed. Well, let me start from the beginning. I arrived at Lincoln High early, watching students rush to first period with that particular Monday morning energy. A few of Emma's classmates recognized me, their quick glances and whispered conversations telling me that rumors about my absence were already circulating through the hallways like wildfire. Mrs. Rodriguez didn't waste time with pleasantries once I was seated in her office. Emma submitted paperwork to withdraw from all her advanced placement classes on Friday, she said, sliding a form across her desk. She's also dropping French club, student council, and the school newspaper. When I asked why, she said she's transferring schools next semester. My chest tightened. These weren't just extracurriculars. They were the foundation of Emma's college application strategy, the programs she'd fought to get into, the activities that had given her purpose and identity. There's more, Mrs. Rodriguez continued, her voice carefully professional. Last week, she requested that we send her transcripts to 3 different schools in Colorado, all private institutions with significant tuition costs. She paused, studying my reaction. The same state where her biological father recently purchased property. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. I pulled out my phone, showing her Nathan's big announcement text from the family group chat. Let me guess, I said. He's starting a new business out there. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Emma mentioned something about a tech startup. She said her father needs family investors to get it off the ground, and that investing in his company would pay for any college she wanted to attend. The familiar nausea returned, the same feeling I'd gotten 4 years ago when Nathan had convinced Catherine to loan him $4,500 for a guaranteed return photography business. Money we'd never seen again. I left the school and drove straight to our house. Catherine's Subaru was in the driveway, and through the kitchen window, I could see her pacing while talking on her phone. She spotted me before I'd even reached the front door and rushed to open it. He asked her for money, she said without preamble, her voice cracking. Her college fund. He's been filling her head with promises about this technology startup, saying if she invests her $12,000 now, she'll make enough to pay for any college she wants. Where is she? Coffee with Nathan. Again. Catherine's composure finally cracked. I tried telling her, it's a scam, Michael, but she accused me of being jealous that he's finally stepping up. She said at least he believes in her dreams. I sat down at our kitchen counter, the same spot where everything had unraveled just 1 week ago. Why didn't you tell me he was back? I tried to handle it myself, Catherine said, sinking into the chair across from me. I thought if I kept them apart until he got bored and left again. She shook her head. Then you and Emma had that fight, and she said those horrible things, and I panicked. I thought if I didn't side with her completely, she'd choose him and disappear forever. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Emma walked in, freezing when she saw me sitting there. She looked different, makeup carefully applied, wearing the expensive leather jacket Nathan must have bought her, but her eyes were red-rimmed with the telltale signs of recent tears. "What are you doing here?" she asked, but the usual edge was missing from her voice. "Dropping your AP classes." "Really?" I kept my tone gentle, non-confrontational. "Plans change," she mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "Dad says," she caught herself. "Nathan says I don't need traditional college when I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur." Like the classic car restoration business was going to make him successful, I pulled out my laptop, opening the documents I'd spent the morning gathering. Or maybe the food truck franchise. Want to see Nathan's current business registration status? Or his credit report? Or perhaps the 4 pending lawsuits from his last guaranteed investment opportunity? Emma's hands trembled slightly as she took the laptop. With each click, each document, the carefully constructed facade began to crack. When she reached the lawsuit from Nathan's previous girlfriend's daughter, seeking to recover the $8,000 college fund he'd borrowed, the first tear fell. he said. She swallowed hard. He said he'd changed, that he wants to make up for lost time, that we could be a real family if I just. She looked up at me suddenly, understanding dawning in her eyes. The photos. He said I had to prove I was choosing him, that you were the reason he'd stayed away because you'd taken his place. Oh, sweetheart. Catherine moved toward her, but Emma stepped back. I knew, she whispered, her voice breaking. Deep down, I think I always knew. But I wanted so desperately to believe that he really wanted me this time. Her phone buzzed with another text from Nathan. She stared at it for a long moment before deliberately turning it off. I have to go, she said abruptly, heading for the stairs. I need to think. We let her go. Sometimes space is the kindest gift you can offer someone whose world is reorganizing itself around uncomfortable truths. Hours passed. Catherine and I talked, really talked, for the first time in weeks. About our fears and mistakes. About Nathan and Emma. About us. Around midnight, I was getting ready to head back to David's when my phone lit up with a text from Emma. I messed up. Everything's messed up. Can we talk? I mean really talk. Not about Nathan or money or any of that. Just, remember when we used to get ice cream after my dance classes and you'd let me complain about everything? Could we maybe do that? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm writing this from the parking lot of Scoops and Dreams, our local ice cream parlor. It's officially closed, but Marco, the owner, knows our story. He's staying open late just for us, the same kindness he's shown our little family for the past 4 years. Emma just pulled up in Catherine's car. She's sitting there, probably working up the courage to come inside, just like I am. Sometimes the most important conversations start with the smallest gestures. Or in this case, with mint chocolate chip ice cream and the chance to rebuild what manipulation had nearly destroyed. But this story isn't over yet. Because that night at the ice cream shop, Emma told me something that changed everything. Something about Nathan's business that went far beyond taking advantage of his own daughter. That night at Scoops and Dreams changed everything, but not in the way I expected. Emma talked for 3 hours, her words tumbling out between bites of mint chocolate chip, her comfort flavor since she was 13. She told me about Nathan's manipulation, about the guilt he'd made her feel, about the promises that sounded too good to be true because they were. But it was what she mentioned almost casually that made my blood run cold. He's been asking me to talk to my friends about investing too, she said, scrolling through her phone. Look at these group chats. What I saw made my hands shake with rage. Nathan hadn't just been targeting Emma. He'd been using her to reach other teenagers with college funds. Madison, whose parents had saved $15,000 for her education. Tyler, who'd been working summers to build his own college fund. Sarah, whose grandparents had set up a trust fund for her future. Nathan was running a systematic scheme, using teenage social networks to find victims. Emma, I said carefully, what he's doing isn't just morally wrong. It's illegal. She looked up from her ice cream, eyes wide. What do you mean? I explained securities fraud, unauthorized investment schemes, targeting minors. Her face went pale as she pulled up more messages, showing me group chats where Nathan had been directly soliciting investments from teenagers. He's been at this for months, she whispered, scrolling through message after message. I thought it was just about us, about our family. That night, after dropping Emma home, I made some calls. Hannah has a friend at the Securities and Exchange Commission. David knows someone in the district attorney's office. By morning, I had appointments with people who take financial fraud very seriously. The beautiful thing about Nathan was his arrogance. He documented everything, every promise, every lie, every illegal solicitation, in text messages and emails, thinking Emma would never turn against him. When she forwarded those messages to the investigators, Nathan's fate was sealed. The plan came together quickly. Nathan had scheduled his big announcement dinner for Saturday night at Meridian, the most expensive restaurant in town. He'd invited Emma, Catherine, and in a move that showed just how confident he was, several of Emma's friends and their parents. More potential investors. I waited until the appetizers arrived before making my entrance. Nathan was in his element, talking about Silicon Valley connections and guaranteed returns, his voice carrying that practiced smoothness that had fooled so many people over the years. Before we continue, I said, standing up from my table across the restaurant, there are some people who'd like to join us. On cue, Two federal agents and a state investigator walked through the restaurant's main entrance. Nathan's face went from confident to confused to terrified in the space of 3 seconds. The silence in that dining room was deafening. "Nathan Brooks," Agent Martinez said, approaching our table with the calm authority of someone who'd done this many times before. "You're under arrest for securities fraud, operating an unlicensed investment scheme, and soliciting investments from minors." Nathan tried to run. He actually knocked over a waiter carrying a tray of wine glasses and sprinted toward the kitchen. He made it exactly 12 feet before restaurant security stopped him. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at Emma with that manipulative, wounded expression she'd fallen for so many times before. "Emma, sweetheart, this is all a misunderstanding," he called out, his voice desperate. "Tell them I'm your father. Tell them I was just trying to help our family." Emma stood up, her shoulders straight, her voice clear and strong. "My father's right here," she said, taking my hand. "And he just watched you get exactly what you deserve." The aftermath was intense. News coverage, victim statements, more families coming forward. The investigators discovered Nathan had stolen over $340,000 from families across 3 states. His startup was completely fictional, just a website and some stock photos of a real tech company's office. But the real victory wasn't watching Nathan get arrested. It was the small moments that followed. Emma spent an entire evening carefully removing every photo with Nathan from her room, not in anger, but with the calm determination of someone reclaiming their own story. She put all the pictures in a box labeled "Evidence for Prosecution," her idea, delivered with a hint of her old mischievous smile. She reapplied for her AP classes. The school was incredibly understanding, given the circumstances. Her guidance counselor even helped her write an essay about the experience for her college applications. "I have a pretty unique story now," Emma said. "How many people can write about taking down their biological father's fraud empire? Catherine and I are in counseling. There's trust to rebuild, wounds to heal, conversations we should have had months ago." But watching Catherine help Emma put my photos back in the family albums, carefully straightening each frame, said more than words ever could. Nathan's sentencing is next month. Emma's planning to read a victim impact statement. She's been working on it for weeks, revising each word with the same care she used to put into her newspaper articles. "It needs the right ending," she told me yesterday. "Something that shows I'm not just his victim anymore." I think she's already found that ending. It's in the way she holds her head up now, and how she's helping other teenagers recognize similar scams, and the college acceptance letters that are starting to arrive, including one from Northwestern's journalism program. Some people might say what I did was too harsh, that family is family no matter what. But real family doesn't try to steal your future. Real family protects you, even when that means protecting you from other family members. We're having dinner tonight, just the 3 of us, Catherine, Emma, and me. Emma's making her famous lasagna, the recipe she perfected during our cooking experiments last summer. Normal, ordinary, wonderful family time. The kind of evening Nathan will have plenty of time to think about from his cell. Emma asked if we could frame one of the newspaper articles about Nathan's arrest. "For my journalism portfolio," she said with a grin, "and to remind me that sometimes the best stories are the ones where the good guys actually win." Tonight, as I write this final update, I can hear Emma and Catherine laughing in the kitchen, probably over some cooking disaster. It's the sound of a family that's been through hell and chosen to rebuild stronger. Nathan took a lot from us: money, trust, peace of mind. But he also gave us something unexpected: absolute clarity about what family really means. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching someone face consequences, it's thriving in spite of them. And we're not just surviving this story, we're rewriting it entirely. If you've made it this far, thank you for taking this journey with our family. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones that remind us that real love fights for what matters, even when the battle seems impossible to win.